It's easy to blame it on your coach about why you're not getting recruited. It's easy to
Right.
blame it on your location. It's easy just to
Yep.
blame it on everyone but yourself. But to take
Right.
responsibility, that's a big thing that I feel like a lot of student
Yeah.
athletes just miss the boat on.
And there's no doubt that some people have it harder than others. I totally agree. If there's some players who, if you're in that small town, it's really hard to get seen. I totally understand that, but that's when you got to start taking the initiative to connecting with players in your area, connecting with coaches, and just again making that sacrifice to get out of that bubble that you're in and get some exposure.
Continuing on with the topic of exposure, let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about being on the best team, but
Right.
not necessarily being the best player. What comes to
Yeah.
mind when individuals say that, I'm on this team, we're doing pretty well, but I don't get any playing time or I'm not the main player?
Right. So I think that this is huge. So for me, my personal experience, when I got to Nazareth my sophomore year, I was coming back from an ACL injury that I had suffered the year before. So when I got on that roster, I was probably, one of the worst players on that team, quote unquote, in terms of athleticism and, just skill wise. I wasn't ready to play, but I didn't make excuses. I practiced with people that were better than me every single day, right? And some of those practices were rough, right? I know the feeling of not being, totally confident with your skills when you're surrounded by people who, might be better than you at the moment. But again, every day that you're playing with people that are better than you is an opportunity for you to take something from their game. And that's what I did. So sophomore year, didn't play much at all, honestly. Pretty much sat the bench that entire season. Junior year, I was ready to come back, though, and that's the year I had a breakout year because I was accustomed to playing. I knew the style of play of all my teammates, and I knew where I could fit my role, what I could do, and I had versatility. Again, I think if you're able to develop more than one skill set, it's going to be a lot easier for a coach to find a spot for you out on the floor.
Gotcha. Oh, man, you said a lot there, and I want to unpack a little bit of that. One, we'll get into this. Don't let me forget this, but
Yeah.
one, about how versatile you were. You were adamant about playing the role that your team needed you to play, and not necessarily what your ego wanted you to play. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. But two, let's kind of go back as far as on that team that's doing well. I can attest to this, and I've said this on the channel, and you had an example about Bronny James that we can get into, but as far as me going through with junior college basketball, there's a team out of Idaho, College of Southern Idaho, and these guys, they're top 10 every year ranked. And you can be on their bench. You can be on their bench and still get a major Division I scholarship. You can be on their bench, don't get any playing time, and still get opportunities. And the reason that being is because coaches realize that losing is a mentality, but winning is a mentality as well. So even if you sat the bench, but you went to practice and you gutted it out from A to Z, then people are willing to take a chance on you because you have more of a winning mentality. And that's better than being the superstar on a team that's losing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, going back to, I used the example when we talked earlier about Sierra Canyon. If you guys are familiar with, obviously, boys basketball, they are top 10 ranked high school boys basketball team in the country. Bronny James, notably, right? He gets all the notoriety and all the publicity. But if you look down that roster, I think over 70% of that roster committed to play D1 somewhere. So again, it's not about always being the best player. The fourth and fifth best player on that team is probably better than a bunch of kids on, a subpar team that doesn't win that many games. So again, college coaches are not just coming to see that number one kid, the number one prospect, number two prospect. They also know that some of those kids, right? Bronny James is out of reach for a lot of mid-major programs at this point. But that mid-major coach can come and see that fourth, fifth, sixth best kid, and that might be you.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love that.